was a little girl, I came to this church, and I remember sitting in there and measuring my foot by that tile. Under that carpet is Mediterranean tile. It's beautiful. And whenever I came, Maydeen and Merle was my Sunday school teachers.
Oh, my Lord.
I was sent up. I was promoted, so I run home that day, and I told my mother I graduated, and she was so happy for me. I graduated. I went from May's class to Miss Merle's class, or vice versa. I don't know just when, but both of those ladies were my teachers. And my mother was a member here for many years. She was raised in this church. I remember the tale she used to tell us about going to church.
Yeah.
Her name was Anna Lynn Anglin.
Tales, it was testimonies.
It wasn't
Yeah.
tales, it was testimonies.
Correction. Cut.
Yeah.
You done? Come on and sit down and tell us what.
Talk about the past,
Let me
all that good stuff.
Too much to talk about.
I've been coming to this church ever since I was a little girl. And when I was 6 years old, Mr. Hammond's Wood, I think he was the song leader, and he wanted me to sing. We used to have a big Christmas tree here every year. And that night, he wanted me to sing, "'Tis Christmas Eve and Santa Claus is coming here tonight." And I was just about, I imagine, 6 years old when I did that. And then, of course, time went on, and who was running the revival, May, when we accepted the Lord? Anyway,
I know, Joe Bell.
Brother Medea. Richard Justice. Richard Justice was running a revival here, and I walked the aisle at 14 years old. And I have tried my best ever since then. Of course, I know I have backslidden, but I've tried to live for the Lord. I did it all through my married life with my children. I always took them
What's
to
your
church.
name, by the way?
My name is Emmy Granger.
You were?
Amy Gray.
I was Emmy Brown.
Wait to me
Now I'm
then.
Emmy Granger. And will be till the day I die.
Yeah.
And I am 80, will be 84 years old this coming February the 18th. And I love the Lord, and I intend to serve Him the rest of my life.
Well, that's good.
All right.
Eva, do you have something?
Eva, what you want to say? What you want me to say? What do you remember about the church?
Well, I just remember way back with my mother, Jeff, Amy Brown and Jeff Brown brought me as a little girl. I would lay on the bed. All my long story. I grew up here when it was promoted, and I didn't ever know I'd come back here. I came back here and my kids. And move my letter here. I've been here ever since. We stay part-time in Atlanta, 4450 Roma Street. And part-time in Pansey. Okay?
Yeah.
Right? And,
That's exactly right.
we
sis.
just
Yeah.
love this church, always have.
Yeah.
So, we used to, way back, you know, when I was a little girl, we would spread lunches out on the ground. I know everybody remembers that. And so it's been a good thing for me to come back
When you
here.
drove wheels and wagons around. That's when you drove the wheels and wagons, kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Wait a minute now, sis. I don't believe that we put the food on the ground. I can remember when
We had a table, Paul.
Well, y'all used,
We had a wire fence.
Yeah, I remember
Wire
that.
fence for a table.
Wire
Y'all, I know y'all all remember
We
that.
all enjoyed it.
We had to, somebody had to take the lemon
We
and
always
knock
had to
flies,
go
so the rest of us
Our
could eat.
mother and father, everywhere they went, and those days, they had 2 mules and a wagon. We'd have to go to Aunt Ether's and Uncle Will's and Ennis and Ellen's daddy, Uncle Elmer, and Aunt
Excellent.
Exer. And we always, my husband, then I got married to a man that made ice cream. And we took 2 big gallons there one day. And Uncle Elmer, Ennis's daddy, he would wear his overcoat and eat all the ice cream he could. And we really had a good time.
He said, well, my stomach's full and my mouth is just on that.
where's y'all,
You remember that, you did?
where's y'all eat dinner, right here under the tree?
I lived in those days.
Well, I do remember,
You remember
yeah,
that?
when you mentioned,
Yeah.
Mr.
Jeff
Joe Brown,
Brown.
and, you know, the prunes were, oh, you know, he married, Joe, he married. They used to pass our house on mule wagon every Saturday morning. They'd go right-
Evelyn Croom, she was our neighbor
Yeah.
one time. When I was growing up, I'd always have many friends and always spending the night with one.
Y'all not telling about the church.
Huh?
Y'all telling y'all's life history.
Well, why not?
Y'all used to eat out here under this
We
tree?
used to eat under
Right
that
out there.
tree. Yes, we
We
did.
just stretch a fence
Very,
wire.
very good.
One
Everybody
tree to
from
the other, next
everywhere
table,
would come.
You
Yeah.
know, all
tablecloth on it.
two
People
our
bring
houses
food
out
and
there, too.
front.
Yeah, we had 2
Everything.
houses. We didn't have
We had to
this
plant
modern
flies,
stuff.
you know.
Yeah,
Gnats and flies,
You
yes.
put them a lot of pepper in your dumplings, because you wouldn't know the ants from the pepper.
they didn't have none of these buildings,
I can
additions, it was just all,
remember
just a
this
church.
day that baptized me was Joe Bell.
Yeah,
And he was one of the sweetest men, preachers I've ever seen, and also his wife, Mama Bell. I really cared about him so much.
Well,
all
my
right.
name is Merle F. Stoller,
I didn't know
and
he
I've
knew
been
what
coming to
it
this
was.
church for 81 years. I can remember a little, but not an awful lot. I can remember that we used to walk to church. We lived probably about a mile from here, 3/4 of a mile from here, and we'd walk to church every Sunday morning. And we would have to,
We did.
sometimes our shoes would hurt our feet. We'd pull off our shoes and walk barefooted and wash our feet when we got here, put back on our shoes. And then we got to where we had a car one time.
Model T.
And there we had a Model T and Willie's night, and I don't know what. We got a little better off where we could have a car. And we would,
Uncle Aiken was
Sometimes-
a preacher.
sometimes we'd come up here on a wagon. And we'd go to Union Springs, load up on the wagon, and bus office and go to Union Springs Church to a revival on the wagon. And at that time, when we were growing up, we did not have this fellowship hall, only the sanctuary. And our Sunday school classes were all held in the sanctuary. We just go one over here on that corner and one that corner, and we just all had our Sunday school in the sanctuary. And I don't remember it, but we have, our history shows that in 1931, we had a Sunday school membership of 160. In 1931, that's during the Depression. And of course, my daddy was a Baptist preacher,
Uncle Aiken.
Aiken Etheridge, yes, Aiken Etheridge.
Aiken Etheridge.
And my mother was Mittie Etheridge. And we had the choir, at that time, we didn't have the baptistry and the choir loft where it is now. Just in the northeast corner of the sanctuary was the choir. And
We used to
we didn't face the congregation, we faced west, you know,
Yeah.
and had a different pulpit altogether.
We used to sing in the choir. we used to go to singing school here. We had to get up,
Take it away from you, just want to shut your mouth.
Beat time.
we had to beat the time. We had
Yeah.
but now we sit out and we don't sing in the choir. It's not cause we're too old.
Where'd y'all go to get baptized at? Where'd y'all go to get baptized at?
Well, in the creek. Cedar Creek, I was baptized. Joe Bell, he put us in the creek, and Lord, he baptized me. Oh, my sins was washed.
What'd y'all do, go down there and have the service down there? Did y'all have the service down there when they had the baptism?
Yeah, he got in there and he baptized us.
It washed your sins right off.
There's a bunch of them got baptized that night.
Oh, me mercy.
Joe Bell, Myra Bell, they're still
You
living.
on film, you better.
That's about, let somebody else talk, that's about all I can remember.
Okay.
We don't need to do it all.
There's no days like the old days.
Okay, and I'm
All
Shirley
right,
Bryant.
you're next.
I've been coming here for 27 years. I remember the first time coming here, I was with Mr. Brown, which was Tom's daddy. And my first visit, I come in and I sit down in the back of the church, and Mr. Brown, right in the whole congregation, he said, "No, Shirley, you got to go down front." That's where I sit, on my pew down front. So I had to get up and go down front and sit with him. So anyway, there's not been a lot of changes made in the church since I've been coming here, except this addition has been added on. All the other additions had already been added on, but as I understand, we're fixing to add on a new addition to the church. There's been some work done in the pulpit and around, but it's still a pretty church, and I hope it'll always remain an old church, because we're hoping to get it on the Historical Society real soon.
Did y'all have the old pews?
No, the new pews were
That is the only old pew right over there.
I'll take a picture of
My daddy,
That pew is mine.
Shirley,
my,
tell
Don,
him who introduced you to Tom.
This is church history, this is not Shirley history.
Don,
Uh-huh,
that pew over there is the only old pew that we have.
yeah,
My daddy hauled logs from Greenwood, Florida. He's not getting this. My daddy hauled logs from Greenwood, Florida. At that time, they had just old sandy roads, you know, with his mule and wagon.
Yeah.
And to the sawmill for them to do those boards over there.
okay.
And there's a lot of history behind this church. We
Yeah.
can't remember it all. But all of our parents were involved. Udon's granddaddy was one of the first pastors here, isn't that right, Udon?
Great-grand.
Great.
Your great-granddaddy.
Great.
Udon's great-granddaddy, James Best, was one of the early pastors here.
He was the first one, wasn't he?
Get a picture of that thing on the wall.
Yeah,
Get that.
That's the only one that's record.
His picture's not there.
Record on.
Yes,
Well, I remember my Uncle Sam and Mr. Helms, Mary Ronnie's daddy, laying all these bricks for the main auditorium in there. They did a great job.
he did. There's a lot of history in that cemetery too.
Yes, they are.
Okay, Shirley.
Okay.
Oh, what do you want me to say?
Anything you want to say?
Well, I'll start off like this.
Beaver doesn't take it away from him.
Larry Palmer asked me one
Lucille, I'm gonna
day,
whoop her when I get
said,
home.
"Miss May, how long have you been coming to this church?" I said, "Since before I was born." And so that's how long I've been coming to this church. Of course, I was member at First Baptist in Dothan for just a short while. And then we moved our letter to Northbridge Baptist Church in Charleston.
How old are you?
And I am 83 years old. I'll be 84 in May. And I can remember us walking up here to church, like Merle said, and if it was rainy and the roads were muddy, that's when we'd really pull off our shoes and socks because we didn't want to get them muddy. And then we'd wash our feet when we got up here at the pump and put our shoes and socks on.
Well, did y'all have like a well, you draw the well, did y'all have to draw the water up out of?
We had a pump that she pumped.
Oh,
with the lever
okay.
like this.
Yeah, that's something, sitting there, I remember the pump.
Okay.
Although it used to be.
And Merle said that we always walked, we didn't always walk to church because Daddy had several cars, different cars all these years. He first had he had oval ones. I know y'all probably don't even know about those, but he had two brand new oval ones, one behind the other. And then he had a Willis Knight, which was a big touring car. And then we had a Model T Ford and a Model T,
Model A.
a Model T Ford, Model T Ford. We had a Model T Ford and a Model T truck. And that's when Daddy had the store in Dothan. He and Uncle Tom had a store in Dothan that they bought from Johnny McBrown's daddy. And anyhow, they didn't stay in business that long. And I can remember going up there to Dothan, to the store, and eating ice cream at Mike Palmer's little restaurants there close to their store. And, which was, their store was about where, it was right up about three doors from Cressy's.
Yeah.
Main Street.
We're talking about church history now.
Anyhow, Daddy did have cars. One reason we had to walk to church a lot is because Daddy was going to his churches where he was preaching, you see, on Sundays.
Yeah,
He
a
was
lot
going-
of times he didn't he didn't have no car when he went to church. He tried to catch him a ride.
He had him a Model T, because he went right into the river.
And you know what, how people paid him?
Going to Georgia. I was going home with y'all, and we both.
Joe Bell is the pastor that baptized me.
Yeah.
Is he still living, Joe Bell?
Yes.
Yes, Joe is still living.
Real feeble, real
And
feeble.
both feet have been amputated, and he has prosthesis feet.
Both feet.
To walk, he can walk just a little bit with a walker. He was a wonderful pastor.
Maybe you might as well hush.
We had real big crowds when he was pastor. That's the way she's always
Listen, I'm
done
gonna
it.
put my two
Always.
cents in now about the car business. The only car that my daddy ever had was a 1926 Ford, and when the Depression hit, they had to sell it. And the way they bought it was when, the way they got their car was, Grandma Etheridge's, divided her land between the children, and, so that's how Mom and Daddy got their car. I ain't
It was a
ashamed of
Model
none of
T,
it.
I understood he
Well,
went
look
to
here,
Florida.
after
That's
they
the
had
truth.
to, the Depression came, they had
brought us
to,
home.
park those cars, they made Hoover
Oh,
cars.
sausage and some
I think
Frames,
my,
wheels.
Lucille, I think my daddy sold his the best that I can remember for $25.
He run it into an oak tree at Grandma.
We may be
Brown's.
heading for depression again.
No, he
Ron.
didn't.
We
He
may be
almost
making
did.
Hoover.
He
We
did.
may
No,
be
he did
making
not.
bush
He
cars.
He almost did.
Bush arbors is
Okay,
coming.
You
is it
have-
my time?
Yeah.
Is it my time?
Yeah.
Okay, I've only been a member here at Liberty for 3 years, a little over 3 years. But actually, I've been coming here off and on all my life. And one of the first things that I remember, anything about this church, is there was some Jordan girls that they were trying to turn out of the church because they had danced and cooked.
Yeah.
And that is in my
They
memory.
turned my brother out for that, for rolling,
As far back,
for playing his
further
horn.
back than anything I can remember about this church.
Wait a minute, somebody got turned out for
And that's about all I got to say, except
Okay.
I'm just glad I'm here, glad the
just
Lord let
happy.
me.
Yeah. How long's that tree been out there, that big old tree there?
Long as
Yeah.
I can remember.
That's called a scrub.
As long as I can remember.
Been out there a long
As
time?
long as I can remember.
Okay. Yeah,
This church was constituted in 1867.
yeah.
You
Well,
have
I
that
had
in.
always been under the impression that Dick Dawsey built this church.
He furnished the bricks.
He furnished the bricks.
He furnished the bricks.
He was considered a wealthy person.
He was.
Brickyard Gordon.
He was
wealthy.
the only rich man in Pansy.
That's right.
He was, Mr. Dawson was my husband, Paul
Yeah.
Burkett,
Then the old
his
brick
great uncle.
Gordon.
Paul's
Yeah.
grandmother,
When my rich uncle died in the port.
he was Paul's
They hauled him up
grandmother's,
here on 215.
Burkett's, she was a Dawson. And they were brothers and sisters, Paul's grandmother
Don,
and Mr. Dawson.
they first had a bush arbor
Yeah,
facing that road out yonder,
yeah.
the dirt road.
What is a bush arbor? What is that, just
Well, they
under?
probably just had
A frame with some bushes on top.
bushes on
like
top.
shade.
Oh,
Like you see
okay.
in Africa and other places. And then they had a log church
That was over there, wasn't it?
on the other road, facing west. And then after that, they had, it's in the history, you'll find that in history. Then they had a frame church.
Yeah.
In 1923, they built this church, this building. And my father, Aiken Etheridge, preached the first sermon
Yeah.
in this church here.
Dedicatory- It was the
1924.
dedicatory sermon, and then they had a revival for 2 weeks. Now, I don't know if Daddy did the preaching or who did the preaching those 2 weeks, it doesn't say. But that's when they had so many converts,
Yeah.
so many people joined the church. 2-week revival.
But there's nobody here old enough to remember when they had the wood frame building.
No.
I think I talked to Enos, I was over there.
See, this one.
He told me he was like 13, 14 years old when he built this church.
Made England.
Enos Eubanks.
I think I was 5 years old. It was in 1924 when they
You was 5 years old.
built the church and had the dedicatory sermon in 1924. And Daddy preached that sermon.
You were 5 years old.
I think I was born 1919, and that was in 24.
But you don't have any memory of the other wooden
No. It's a
structure.
wonder she can, because she remembers everything else.
I remember a lot,
She doesn't
but I
remember that
can't tell you
building.
all that.
Yeah, I know that.
We're all real proud of
You
the
want-
church, I know that.
You what?
You wanna say something?
You want to say something, George?
I've already said something, you speak up.
Anything already?
Well, I was 5 years old when my granddaddy passed away. I do remember, viewing his body, lived down there.
Buddy, you must have buddy been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was 5 years old, and that's the first I remember. And I remember back then everybody traveled by mule and wagon, majority of the people. And,
How old are you, Don?
I'm 70 years old.
70?
Yeah.
Is that all?
Yeah.
You're a young boy.
So I was older than that. Yeah, I probably do. Look over.
That's old enough, isn't it, you don't?
How old are you?
Me?
Yeah.
81.
81.
81.
I know your age now. But anyway, going on remembering about the church, and I don't know too much history about it, but one time I went to the Dothan Library in Dothan, and just looked under Liberty Church. But you want to find a lot of the history about the names and the old,
At the library?
old people, that started this church.
At the
Go
library?
to Liberty Church, when they built the church. I think they said they started in the early 20s when the church was started.
That's the first
But I
recording.
remember
Subsection.
going to the Dothan Library and looking it up, Liberty Church. And you find a lot of history about the church, about the people,
At the
that was around
library?
here.
At the library?
Yeah, it's in there now, Dothan Library.
Really?
No, Liberty Church. You'll find, I went to a lot of the history too, I went to Abbeville too, and back in the 1800s when the things was, transactions, people's property and different things, and
Henry.
I found a lot of history in Abbeville.
Well, good. Well, did you keep it? I mean,
No, well, I made the copies of some of it, and I don't know where Dawn still got copies, I didn't make copies of all of the history. But you can find a lot of the names the Dothan Library. You know, Aiken Etcher was in there, my granddaddy's name was in there, and,
All the older pastors.
There's somebody else, who was it? We started Union Springs Church, no, Pleasant Grove. This church
Moody,
started,
Charlie Moody was
Charlie Moody, his name was in there too.
yeah,
In that, starting the dance, you know.
Henry Moody.
Liberty
Charlie
Church,
Moody.
and, there was different names in there that,
I think there were 17.
kept the church.
I think it's in our history, it says there were 17 members granted a letter to organize that Pleasant Grove Baptist
Yeah.
Church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you find a lot of history in
Daddy
the
was the
Dothan
first
Library
pastor of
about
that
Liberty Church. I didn't know that somebody told me that.
He was the first pastor. Brother Aiken was the first pastor.
Daddy was the first pastor of Pleasant Grove.
No, he wasn't the first Baptist of Liberty, not the first pastor
He
of
wasn't
Liberty,
first.
no.
He just
Pleasant
was,
Grove.
No,
he just
Pleasant Grove.
preached the first sermon.
I don't know, you find some in that, go to Montgomery in the archives too, a lot of things. Now, I didn't ever go to
They came out of
archives,
Jack
but I had some of
Shaw.
my people went to archives and, you know, look at the family history. But I didn't go myself.
Died
But,
when
you
the church.
can
when
dig
they
out a
were
lot of
going-
history if you got time. It takes time to dig in them books, you know, and find all the history about the church. But, I don't know too much about the
When
history
they were gonna
myself.
build the church.
That's what I remember, you know, the first I remembered.
They had a meeting, and Mr. Dawson
Always, you
called
know,
all the men, you know, for the meeting. And he, because of him being president of the First National Bank in Asheville, he knew what, you know, he knew what kind of financial way, you know, all the men were. And his Daddy said that he told him, he told each one of them what they were financially able to give toward building the church. And he said, Aiken, you're able to give $50. So that's what Daddy gave, $50. And whatever he told each one, that's what they gave. And then Mr. Dawsey is the one that furnished the brick. He furnished the brick. And then they bought all the other materials that they needed.
Mr. Sam Croon at Gordon
Mm-hmm.
had a brickyard down at Gordon. That's where they got the brick, the old brick.
Dick Dawsey owned the brickyard at that time.
Who?
Dick Dawsey.
He owned the brickyard?
Yeah, at that time, he donated the brick.
I knew he donated
But,
it, but I thought
Sam
he bought
Croon
it.
got involved in it later on, the brickyard.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's what they told me now, I don't know.
His wife
What
was
was
named
Mr.
Mr. Dick Dawson's wife name.
I believe that's the way it was.
What was her name?
My,
I used to go in.
my aunt
Can't
was,
remember right
Sam
now.
Croon was her daddy, my aunt.
I just remember him as having a lot of money.
Yeah, they said he was filthy rich.
How did he get his money? You
But,
don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know,
Well,
they moved
he was
away
a
from here,
thrifty
so
man.
the farm, he probably was a farm.
And
Later on, over the years.
he was president of
I
the
lived
First
there
National Bank,
too,
and he
about
got,
22
you know,
years.
I don't know how,
And,
you know, those, I don't know how they
I
do it, but
learned
it
they
had,
had died.
he had,
In the paper,
he had
the
land.
Dothan Eagle.
Probably inherited a lot of it.
His daddy left him, had land and a home. And then from that, he just started growing, and he bought more land and more land and more land, and he'd lend people money, and they couldn't ever pay him, and he'd get their land.
But all he had to do was pay the taxes on the place to inherit land back then, they tell
And
me.
land would be his.
A lot of people owe
It's that
taxes.
way now too, is it,
Couldn't
you
pay the
know?
taxes.
Yeah.
That's the way
A lot of times
It had
Isn't
to
it
be,
that way now?
it had to be so many years. It had to be 20 years.
My daddy's wife, they said he could have claimed all the land he wanted in
A lot of
certain
people
areas.
lost
Well, you
their
know,
Just to pay the taxes.
Y'all read a lot about
But
the
the
gallery.
pressure and everything.
This little-
My husband, Al Whitehall, was a deacon here.
Okay.
Yeah, he had a store over there in Pansey and a gym too.
And my brother was the pianist here for a long, long
Okay.
time.
Yeah,
He
James,
died in 95.
James Brown.
he was the best piano player they had here.
Yeah. He knew
Oh, yeah, you can tear it up.
Sure did.
Yeah, James,
I hear his
played the
music.
piano for 40 years here.
I do.
James Brown.
Right on.
Precious
Isn't
memories.
that wonderful, you know,
Precious
that,
memories.
well, I just
They
always
gone,
did.
but not forgotten.
That's
Well,
I'm married to Tom Brown, he's a deacon here now, and he's 70 years old. He still thinks he's not old enough to come to Golden Elders, so, I don't
Who is
know
this
how
now?
old these other people
Who is
are.
this?
Tom,
Oh.
Tom Brown.
Well, Tom's too
70.
busy, he don't have time.
Tom had to go to that boy
works.
Yeah,
Well, you almost never got old enough yourself.
He loves.
all right.
Well, I've been old enough for a year.
Joyce, we have to do what we have to do, don't we?
That's right.
No, and I reckon that's about all we know.
Okay.
We